ho! That asshole behind me isn't getting shit this year. I know what they did, and not only was it illegal...
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah.
Turn on your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective.
And here we go.
Welcome to the freak show, the best in town.
What is going on, Hive? Merry Christmas Eve. Last night was a lot of fun, and it was awesome to have Lana and Dago up on stream kind of sporadically. If you have not had a chance to go check that out from last night, please do. It was a great conversation. And today I'm really looking forward to this stream because I wasn't sure if Lana was going to be able to make it on last night, so I didn't really announce it. I know she was sick and kind of battling off a flu or a cold, and once she came up and I saw Dago in the chat, I'm like, all right, let's just have a little bit of a roundtable discussion. But what I'm going to go over today is what I had originally planned on going over yesterday. And if you remember, I gave a huge shout out to my mod Luna for sending me unbelievable archived screenshots on 4chan. And I have a few things to say about that. I'm going to say what's up to everybody. I'm going to get that out of the way first. And then I'm going to go into my entire thought process and try to get everybody's minds right for how we should look at these posts, what I'm going to show today. So how are you doing, Jim? Nene, Sleuther Dare, Critic Rick caught me. It definitely was me in both Grinch suits twerking. Yes, you got me. What's going on, UFO Dog? Truth and Neurons, great to see you all. Crow and Rainbow, Vicky Williams, Merry Christmas. Discord Dawn, what up, what up? Good morning, Gabby Girl. Crime Tourist, UK Kaylee, how are you doing? I hear that Santa is currently over Thailand, soon to be over the Taj Mahal in Russia. Damn it. In my world, the Taj Mahal's in Russia. I cannot confirm nor deny, Critic Rick. Thank you for the super chat. Murky Piglet. Hey, what up? Happy holidays. Merry Christmas Eve, everyone. Thank you so much for the super chat. As a reminder, anything over $4.99 will pop up right here, and I address that right away. Also, if you do subscribe to the Hive, that will also pop up right there. We will be able to welcome you. So if you have not hit like or hit subscribe, please do. Good morning, J. Lou. K. Wolf. Sleuth Kitty. Amanda B. from West Virginia. Gamor. Karen Bell, the Salted Blonde. Good morning. Birdie and the Hizzy getting busy. Wait. All right. UFO Dog says Berdino and the Hizzy for the. I got to start over. Berdino in the Hizzy for Shizzy on Chris Mizzy, feeling tizzy, and the Mizzy getting busy when I'm dizzy. I give that like a C+ for myself. Wasn't my best showing. And thank you, Helen someone 6167. Thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate you. Discord Dawn, how are you doing? D-Dog Wifey says, I'm stuck at work, but I just told my staff to go home early. Good. Early Christmas gift. Heart of Gold, how are you doing? RBF Queen. Kimberly in Texas said, good morning. Made it. Happy Christmas Eve, y'all. THD, Doctor of Thinkology. Merry Christmas Eve, everyone. Have a blessed time with family and friends. Absolutely. How are you doing, Miss Jess? Vixie Blaze. Merry Christmas from the UK. Love the UK Hive. Love the Australia Hive. It's awesome. I got my YouTube like recap for where people tune in. The US was number 1. Oddly enough, Canada was number 2. The UK was number 3, and Australia was number 4. So that's awesome. Do we got a white Christmas? We had a white Christmas, and then out of nowhere, in the classic Midwest fashion, it went from like 3 degrees to 50 yesterday. So all the snow melted. Mary Champagne 1427. I love you. Whoops. Creepily Goth, the Allies. Yeah, it is early. You're right. I should get a pass. And I took that damn fireball shot at the end of last night's stream. No white Christmas in Montana either. Wow. Well, let's get those likes up high before I get into that. And now's a good time, too, to give my disclaimer. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm your host, Birdie. I go live every weeknight at 7 p.m. Central. And then if it's like a holiday like this or a weekend, I'll try to go live between 10 and noon Central. But this is a contrarian thinking live stream. So we like to think past the headlines. We like to question the narrative. We like to critically think. So if you're easily rattled or if you're offended on behalf of someone else, you're not going to like me. You're not going to like the stream. The chat, there's really no rules for the chat. Say whatever you want. I want this to be a place for you all look forward to, and you can come and you can ask your questions. You can say your thoughts. And unless you're trolling, spamming, or threatening, the mods will give you enough leash to hang yourself. So that's what this stream is about, and that will never change. All of the streams are free. Again, if you feel kind enough to give a super chat or a tip in the tip link, because any super chats do get taxed, not just 30% by YouTube. We found out that Apple, if you buy it on an iPhone, they take 30% as well. So it's quite the structure they got going on there. So I already said this. If you guys have not hit like and subscribe, take 2 seconds right now and just do that. And this will be the last time that I plug the giveaway alert, because tonight at midnight, this will end. If you spend $50 or more at thehivemindstore.com, you get a free Hive t-shirt included in your order. So that will automatically get added to your cart when you spend $50 or more, and you get to pick your size and your color. So you got some last minute Christmas shopping to do. We got the scrub truck. We got Loyal to the Foil. We got a bunch of hats, bags, mugs, pajamas. We got some really cool stuff on there. And you know what? Real quick, I'm debating. I'll be right back. Okay? I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Everything's fine. Just give me 2 seconds.
You better go take it. Always they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. They know that we're calling them wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling them wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're causing them wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're causing them wrong. Hey, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're causing them wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're causing them wrong.
All right, I'm back. I was sweating everything off in that hoodie, so I apologize. We got the heat cranked up in our house, so I was gonna start to go into it. I'm like, if I don't stop now, I'm gonna turn red. You guys are gonna start to see beads of sweat dripping down my head. So I apologize for that, but I'm good to go now. We're gonna be getting into the scrubbed 4chan posts. I think that I know how the majority of people probably feel about the 4chan posts. And to be honest, I think most people are probably somewhere in the middle on it. It's tough because it's anonymous. And if they're scrubbed and they disappeared, not many people have seen it. So it's hard to go back and maybe think to yourself, well, was this legitimate? How could somebody have possibly known that? The documents weren't released yet, right? I feel like we need to look at these as if local chatter, people on the ground, we know there's a lot of people out there, and the cops showed up, right? Word like that will spread extremely quick. And Barry Coulter hit the nail on the head, said, remember, where they don't want you to look, always look in that direction, no matter how deep and nasty it gets. Amen to that. Totally right. Well said. Thank you for the super chat. 1984, wishing you and Mrs. Birdie happy holidays. Hang in there. It's been quite a year. 2026 is going to be the Birdie household year. I can tell you that much. And the Hives year. Lock in. We're going to dial in. I got a fast planned. I'm fasting from Sunday, January 4th to Wednesday, January 7th. If anybody would like to join me on that, more than happy to. But I will be doing water and some like electrolyte supplements. So I try to do that once a year. This year, it's going to be the 4th through the 7th. Now, with these posts, before I start to show them, and I'm just going to get right into it, I'm going to start with this Newsweek article. Okay. I showed this a little bit last night right before Atlanta popped up, but I thought this was really interesting. So I'm going to read this quick. This came out, I believe, on the 19th or the 20th. So the when was the PCA released? It would have been the same day. The affidavit said that the officers responded to reports of an unconscious person at the property at 4 p.m. the same day. Police previously stated that the 911 call came in at 11:58 a.m. Moscow Police Chief James Fry told local news channel KREM in December that the tape would be released when the prosecution believes that we can. This has been a big bone of contention for a lot of people. Why, if you saw some shadowy figure walking towards you, would you just close your door and go back to bed and not call the police? Banfield said on Thursday. And the characterization to the source who spoke directly to her after the murders is that she didn't think that figure was anything other than part of horsing around, maybe one of the partiers. Newsweek was unable to contact the Moscow Police Department for comment, as it, along with the attorneys involved in the case, is barred from communicating with the media following a January 3rd court order. So this article was a little bit later. My apologies. But how weird is it that they say reports of an unconscious person at the property at 4 p.m. the same day? That's weird. And how weird is it that we've heard that someone came and shot the party up, and the characterization to the source who spoke directly to her after the murders is that she didn't think that that figure was anything other than part of the horsing around, maybe one of the partiers. So little things like this is what I really like to dive into and look deeper into. And the characterization to the source who spoke directly to her. Well, are we to think that Ashley Banfield talked to Dylan? I don't believe so. Am I reading that how you all are? Clearly, Ashley Banfield's questioning why would you just close the door and go back to bed? And then the characterization to the source who spoke directly to her and the murders is that she didn't think that that figure was anything other than part of the horsing around, maybe one of the partiers. So how could was there a party? And that's what I like to think through, because before I start to show these, the 4chan posts now, I wanted to show this first because most people are going to learn this case by memorizing the documents, the timelines, motions, affidavits, right? It's just a bunch of paper stacked up until the story, in a way, feels settled. It feels simple. But that's not how truth really ever naturally comes out in any way. Crimes never happen just on paper. And it seems like we want this crime to have happened on paper where it will make total sense on paper. Not that I don't buy that. I just don't tend to lean into that direction because it's not evidence in a courtroom sense, but this is evidence. These are like early leads, early speculation. And it's not to say that anonymous forums are reliable per se, but they are unfiltered and they're usually not heavily redacted. They're not blurred out, right? They capture what somebody's truly feeling in that moment in time, especially when it happens within a week or they get posted within a week of the crime happening, is how I look at this. And my goal is not to know the evidence the best by reciting what's written in the filings. I think everybody who's tuned in knows that. That's not my goal to know it the best. I need to know it, obviously, but I want to know, how does that apply to the crime itself? You can't take what's written on paper so literally because it's going to be a watered down version of human events that play out in a crime is chaotic. It's not super neat. Type of 1 if you feel that same way. Just so I kind of can get a gauge if what I'm laying down, if you guys are picking it up. Yeah, okay. So some people in here type of 1. Okay. And it's not that I don't enjoy reading a case file, but I want to rethink through the crime under a different light, knowing what we know. That's my goal. And I'm not saying that any of these are credible. I have a disclaimer here before I get into that. Let me just read this. The following material includes archived public posts, forum content, and news articles shared for informational and analytical purposes only. These materials are presented as historical records and do not reflect my views or assertions of fact. No claims are being made regarding guilt, innocence, or intent. Viewers are encouraged to verify all information independently and understand that online content may be inaccurate, incomplete, or misleading. Let's get into this shit, huh? All right. I showed this last night. I was trying to walk Lana down this path. We kind of got a little bit sidetracked, but to me, this is a bombshell. This is Friday, November 18th, 2022. This case is so messed up. The cops are literally releasing statements today that contradict their earlier statements. So today, they said they don't know who called 911, and the bodies were all found in bed. But a few days ago, they said that one of the girls made it outside and bled to death on the front yard. Then a neighbor was walking their dog the next morning and found the body, but thought it was just an unconscious partier. So they called 911, and that's why it was for somebody unconscious. So why are we today getting a completely different story that the bodies were all in bed and they don't know who called 911? Again, we see the word partier. I personally believe that this would make a hell of a lot more sense than any one of the roommates or their friends going inside of that house and somehow being able to see and recognize their roommates stabbed to death brutally and just say that this was an unconscious person. I go back to this article where they say, wait, where did it go? Well, the 4 p.m. thing's weird. But yeah, this is just interesting. A lot of people have speculated, was this done outside? Were the bodies moved? You look at the forensic reports inside of that house, you'll see blood in the stairwell. And that's a $1 million question, Missy Kim. Was it a man or a woman found? And let's treat this kind of like a live dig. I'm going to really pay attention to your guys' comments. Because, well, and I'm glad that you just said that. Did they mean 4 a.m.? That would be wild. It's just one letter. I can tell you it's one letter. That's a lot easier to change. Well, it does say, too, that one of the girls made it outside and bled to death on the front yard. Yes. So I guess technically it does say girl. Now, here's a follow-up post in that thread. It says, I don't know what their source was. It was a thread about 24 hours ago, right? So this is on the 20th now. I don't know what their source was. It was a thread about 24 hours ago. Supposedly, it was some morning passerby. IIRC, the post talking about it, was talking about how the story changed from that to the 911 call came from inside the house. Suddenly and mysteriously, the original story of the original 911 call of the passerby was scrubbed. Yeah, and I know somebody said there really isn't a front yard. I think that that's where we have to understand, like, they could just be meaning the driveway, right? There's somebody outside the front of the house. You know, I think we got to be able to separate little things like that. I wouldn't say, in my mind, I wouldn't say, well, there's no grass, so that's bullshit, right? I don't think that that would be the reason to discount a lead. Right. And Luna says, remember, these are from the very beginning, rumors on campus and in town. The next one is again from an article. This says, before the 911 call was made, the surviving roommates reportedly summoned friends to the residence because they believed that one of the second floor victims was unconscious and was not waking up. Someone at the residence called 911 at 11:58, over 7 hours after the homicides allegedly occurred, on a surviving roommate's phone to request aid for an unconscious person. The identity of the 911 caller was not released, but police confirmed the caller was not considered a suspect. When police arrived, the door to the home was open. There was no sign of forced entry or damage inside the home, and nothing appeared to be missing. The two surviving roommates were on the property when the police arrived, as were the other friends of the victims. Quote unquote unconscious person. The identity of the 911 caller was not released, but police confirmed that the caller was not a suspect. Again, when they arrived, the door was open. So I'm trying to think through these events. We know that there was a person walking their dog. We see them on camera. We know that they're in the police documents. If somebody tried to run out, and let's say it was a second floor victim, maybe it was Xana, right? Dylan thought that it was Kaylee in the bathroom. Who knows? But my point is this. If you were running away and trying to escape and you got outside, you bled to death, and then the killer was like, oh shit, they escaped, and the killer runs out the back door, that part could all be true. You're just changing little details. Now, it might not have been Xana. It could have been Kaylee. But the door was open. And I believe that was reported. And Lana, even last night, was saying that guy walking his dog walked for an hour. He saw the door open, and an hour later when he came back, that door was still open. So who's to say that he didn't call 911 walking his dog and just say, hey, I saw somebody, they look like they're unconscious out in their front of the house, and then continue their walk. I don't know. I have no idea. But if the door was open and somebody was trying to escape, they wouldn't have time to close the doors. Who knows? Right. And so Creepily Goth says the Idaho 4 cannot be found on the way back. I tried. Well, that's why it is so important that we have people in the Hive who they were smart enough to screenshot these right away. So let that be a lesson for everybody. If you see some crazy shit, in any case, screenshot it because it could disappear. Right. That person could have reported the unconscious person outside. I think that makes so much sense. Guys, we have to either believe everything or we have to pick a theory on why something could make sense and the different angles they're all trying to get us to believe. Do you think there was a cover-up? Yes or no? If you think there was a cover-up, guess what happens in a cover-up? The story is never straightforward, and you have to unpack it, and there's bits of truth, in my opinion. For example, the 911 call did come in for an unconscious person. It made no damn sense. Well, how would that make sense if it was somebody that was in the house and saw all that? It wouldn't. But it could make sense if somebody walking their dog saw a door open and saw what they thought was a partier face down outside and they called for the unconscious person. Maybe they were worried at that point, like, oh shit, we have a 911 call on the blotter for 1122 that says unconscious person. We have to go with that. The door stays open. The police say it when they arrive. We talked about all the weird things that we've seen in the actual body cam when the cops do show up. So that's what I like to look for. I like to look for the little things that I'm like, well, that's true. And that's even true in the main narrative. I just, this is mind-blowing to me. Now, when did it happen? I don't know. But we will get to the bottom of this. And I believe that one of the most important things to getting to the bottom of this is asking questions in real time, out loud, in a group, in the Hive. Because if we don't do that, we're never going to figure out the little bits and pieces of truth by ourselves, I don't think. Having the multiple different views of opinion is powerful. Katie's on the case says definitely more probable. I thought this 100 until I saw police cam of the canvas, but it could be someone different. Yeah, they did. They brought in the canine too. Cookie's Corner says, just like a fairy tale, Birdie, thread of proof in every tale. So, yeah, there's clearly a cover-up, but there would be blood all over the damn place outside. Drysiders, I don't disagree. Wouldn't you think there'd be blood all over that house, too, that we don't see in the hallways? I mean, for all we know... Okay, I'm speculating here because this is a stretch. This is a stretch, but I'm thinking, how would we ever know? Okay. Do you guys know how They went and they got the ECUs from Ethan's Jeep, Ethan's Explorer, and Maddie Mogan's car. Discord Dawn, actually, one of the things that she knows about a lot is like robotics and electronics. And I believe that there's an aspect of what she does that she makes the ECUs. The ECUs can tell you everything about a car. They are the black box of an automobile. Just like how, like after 9/11, they were looking for the black boxes of the airplanes because it tells you everything about that car. So did they look at those 3 cars because maybe that's where they thought a body was lying? Did somebody have the wherewithal to think to themselves, if we get the ECU of the car, we will be able to see when was the last time that this car was started? Even if it moved 5 feet, 10 feet, who's to say that all that blood outside that maybe they just got right outside the door, shot in the doorway type thing that we thought we heard on the 911 call, and just parked a car over where that blood stain was? We would never see it on camera. Does that make sense? That's my point. Who knows? I'm trying to think through, like, we don't see anything. So how do we count that out? They're looking at clearly why those 3 cars and what their ECA or ECU is showing. All right. Another one that I got is this. These next couple, they're kind of random, but again, Saturday the 19th, November 22, 2022. It's weird because 2 of the girls called this guy Jack, whom one of the girls, Kaylee, used to date. Kaylee made 6 outgoing calls to Jack between 2:30 a.m. and 2:45 a.m. Then Maddie made 3 outgoing calls to Jack between 2:45 a.m. and 2:52 a.m. Then Kaylee called Jack one last time at 2:52. The murders occurred between 3 and 4. Maybe Jack lost his phone while stabbing them and used their phones to call his to try to locate it. And they have the time of death an hour advanced because, like, all the girls kept the thermostat up high, which if Jack was smart, he would have turned this on his way out. That last part, The first part about losing your phone and then using theirs to call him to try to find it makes sense. The other thing, too, guys, that I want to mention, let's think through this logically, okay? I don't think that I've ever said this on stream. What do you think's more likely? Like an industrial level cleanup where you would have to have a professional crew come in and clean things up if it didn't just occur in their sleep, which we know it didn't, but for the amount of blood that would have to be cleaned up, no evidence of bloody towels, how they cleaned it up, when they cleaned it up, nobody's admitting to it. There's like a latent shoot print and there's little specks of blood. Are we so committed to the theory of an attack with a knife, even though we've never seen the knife, or the theory of a gun, even though we've never seen a gun? Are we so committed to that it's limiting our process on how we think about this? We're like, there would be blood everywhere, but cleaning that up and not having it visible to the naked eye that well is wild. Have you guys ever thought through that? Again, I'm thinking out loud. I don't know if that's right, but my point is, what if it wasn't as physical as we've been told? I understand the autopsies, but guys, come on. Just think through this logically. If you were going to cover something up, what would you want to cover up? You'd want to cover up the truth of what happened, when it happened, why it happened. Right, and creepily goth says, well, not if the CIA cleaned up. I know, but I hope that that's not going over people's heads. What I just said is, why are we trying to think on how the crime occurred? If they've lied about they were asleep, they've lied about maybe when the girls got home, they lied about Dylan and Bethany being there, they lied about Brian Koberger committing this crime, they've lied about the timeline, they've manipulated the footage, they've manipulated the audio. We don't know when the 911 call actually came in. Who was it called in by? Was it the guy walking his dog? Was there somebody out on the front bleeding out? Did they move the bodies? Why are we to think that the actual stabbing would ever be the only thing? Right? That's kind of what I was getting at, Laura. And I'm trying to say, too, like the amount of blood, if you've even gotten a really bad bloody nose, it seems like there's more blood from the bloody nose on the way to go get a tissue sometimes than what we've seen in that house. And you can clean that up very easily. So if the blood is not, I'm not saying that they had bloody noses. I'm trying to say hands cut, defensive wounds, someone running through that house. Yes, Brian, to me, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop believing what they claim. No story makes sense. I'm sorry. I have not heard any other person, mainstream, on YouTube, on X, on Rumble. I've never heard somebody give a crystal clear theory that just the documents lay out. Everybody, whether they want to admit it or not, has to speculate based on those documents. Whether they went up onto the balcony, whether they went through the sliding door, whether they went through the front, whether they went through the window. So if we speculate, let's speculate differently. Let's truly think outside the box on it. And it's very hard to do that once we've looked at something so many times in such a certain light. 4 murders, stabbed with a knife. Guys, the chaos that would have been ensuing is unbelievable. It would have been unbelievable. It would have been torturing to watch. It would have been loud. If they were gagged, maybe they wouldn't have been, but it would have been chaotic. People would have ran for their freaking lives. They would have not gone back to bed. They would have ran for their lives. And, like, has anybody seen that super effed up video of the 3 UPS fake drivers? Have you guys seen that? It's like a 4-minute video, 3 people shot and killed in front of 2 toddlers, UPS fake drivers, and you listen to just the chaos going down. And that's with guns. And it's all on camera. All these people had security cameras. And I'm like listening to it. I'm like, this is quick. That is quick. That's with guns. And there's still people that are able to yell and shout and take the toddlers out of it. But there's a control aspect you clearly see when 3 people are in your house with weapons that you'll clearly go anywhere, even though you know you're at danger. It's just very odd that this is just done by one person with a knife. So it seems insane. Why would we ever try to figure out how that insanity would have happened? I personally believe that we on this channel have given it enough effort to thinking how they could have been stabbed that many times. Maybe we need to look into the cause of death being different and how it might line up differently. And it's not spreading misinformation for F's sake. It's just thinking through it. Now, I'm going to read the disclaimer again. This is archived public content shown for discussion and analysis purpose only. No claims or allegations are being made. Has anybody ever seen these? I have not. Let me take the comments down and I'll put this full screen. Has anybody seen these before? This person says this was the first suspect ever in the case. His name is Carson Grover, lives in Washington, close to where similar stabbings occurred. Turns out he is literally autistic and was never mentioned again. Nobody knows why. Haven't seen him mentioned since literally week 1. Was this kid mentioned? Carson Grover, biggest incel I've ever seen. I think Carson Grover killed the Idaho Roasties. I went down a rabbit hole of this guy, and I've never seen a more vile incel. He is known in Vancouver, Washington for harassing and threatening countless women. He has hundreds of burner accounts and an endless history on Twitter of everyone in the area talking about how effed up he is. He posts on his social media daily, except for November 13th. Also, are you guys looking into this weirdo Carson? Is he the or a suspect? He's been following all the girls and posting about the crime. He also got an obsession with sorority girls, like you say. He got like 6 Instagram accounts and follows thousands of girls on each and posts freaky shit in their comments. Clearly a disturbed dude, as you can tell. So, again, interesting. I've never seen this. I'm not claiming that this is the dude that did it. And Discord Don says his accounts are gone. But I've never even heard that name before. If you guys want to screenshot that, do some research. Isn't that interesting, though? Like, I haven't seen anybody really say in the chat that they've seen this. How much stuff have we looked into? And there's like, was this the first suspect? Suspect 1, suspect 2. Isn't suspect 1 blurred out? I wonder, does anybody know the name of the report or the number of the report that the suspect 1 is on? Right, that's what I'm saying. So Lydia Unhinged says he was cleared in early January. It was on the Facebook group. The same with Papa. Well, can you send that, please, Lydia? To the Discord. I think you're in there. Yeah, well, Delilah saying, I don't know, why people think that would be a contributing factor. I'm assuming that's talking about autism. I agree. I think that the news is to blame for that. It's the mainstream that's saying that. Now, I have a theory on that, right? There are people that they look at Brian Koberger, they say, okay, he's on the spectrum in some manner, one way or another. I agree. Being autistic doesn't make you violent in any way, shape, or form. It's not to say that maybe there's not episodes depending on what the diagnosis is or what type of autism, right? I think we can all wrap our heads around what I'm trying to say like that. It doesn't mean that you're just inherently violent. And I think that when they associated it with Brian Koberger, that's where people's heads went to, which is just stupid. It's so dumb that you would think that. And the way that clearly whatever version Brian had, I know a lot of people have said Asperger's, like the socially kind of awkwardness. Even Chief Jenkins says that, like Brian had the knowledge, but socially he wouldn't have been able to connect. Right? Yeah. And even Brian. So I'm not ever claiming that. I agree. I think that it was a wild thing, but why would it come up in court so much? What would the reasoning be? And even Will, who used to hang out with Brian, says he's like, I would have not known that he would have ever have been like diagnosed. Like, I just would have thought he was socially awkward. And none of us have met him. Will has. So I think that goes to show clearly it's nothing that's on the extreme side of anything for Brian in this case. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there are versions of there's absolutely mental health that makes you violent. I don't think that Brian displayed any of that at all. Here's something that's interesting, though. And I'm going to pull this up. All right. 1 second. My computer kind of froze. So when did Brian Koberger do his psych exam? Wasn't it right around the time that Josh Hurwitz got involved? I'm going to kind of change gears here now that from Delilah's comment about the autism in the psych eval. So does anybody in the Hive know off the top of their head, what was the date that Ann and Hurwitz were emailing back and forth about Koberger's psych exam or psych eval? They were talking about which experts, X, Y, and Z, right? What was the date of that? But anyways, we know that Hurwitz came in shortly before that. So this is weird. Okay, this is actually something that I love thinking about not love thinking about in that manner. I love how when I have a thought, I look something up and I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even know that would be the answer. Okay. Right. Okay. So if it started just before and was being decided upon Hurwitz's arrival, that makes this, what I'm about to show you, makes so much more sense. This is insane. If someone is accepted into WITSEC, meaning witness protection, would they need to do a psych exam? Short answer, yes, almost certainly. Long answer, absolutely yes, and it's not just a casual vibe check. If someone's accepted into the Witness Security Program, WITSEC, run by the U.S. Marshal Service, they don't just hand you a new name and wish you luck. They are effectively rebooting your entire existence. That requires knowing whether your mind is going to cooperate with the reboot. WITSEC participants are under extreme psychological stress, new identity, total social isolation from prior life, constant threat perception, rules you can't break without getting yourself or others killed. The government needs to know whether you can handle that without cracking, self-sabotaging, or running back to familiar chaos. So before placement, participants typically undergo a psychological evaluation that looks at things like impulse control, emotional stability, capacity to follow strict rules, substance abuse, antisocial or narcissistic traits, mental resilience. Not because they expect saints, but because one unstable decision can compromise an entire operation. It's not therapy, it's a risk assessment. Someone with untreated severe mental illness, extreme impulsivity, or a pattern of self-destructive behavior is a liability not just to themselves, but to law enforcement, prosecutors, and other protected witnesses. WITSEC is expensive, it's dangerous, and it's permanent. The marshals don't gamble. There's also a darker, less discussed angle. The psych eval helps determine how controllable and compliant a witness will be under pressure. Can they keep their mouth shut? Can they handle isolation without seeking attention? Can they live a boring, anonymous life without detonating it? Does that not feel like Brian Koberger's exact court process? That entire... Why is Josh Hurwitz involved? So would someone like Josh Hurwitz be involved in this process in Idaho if someone was going into WITSEC? So a prosecutor like Hurwitz, he could be informed that a witness is being protected, but he would not decide whether someone qualifies. He would not select psychologists. Okay, so that's a little bit different. He could have just been the person also emailing it, though. So, but there is a strategic firewall. The DOJ intentionally keeps WITSEC insulated from local politics, local relationships, and local pressure. Okay. Local prosecutors informed on a need-to-know basis, not operators. That's interesting. That's really interesting, actually. Somebody also posted a K-bar on 4chan on the 20th. I don't know. It's all weird. I'm trying to figure out what question I can ask that will help us get our minds right. I really am struggling entertaining anything being truthful in this case. The more and more that comes out, the more and more that I think about it, the more and more that I listen to people who know the documents really, really well. It's not being rude. I want to say, yes, that's fine. You're saying why they did the document that way. You're not talking about why that document is ever existing in the first place, though. You're just saying this is why they wrote it that way. This is why it happened on this day. This is why they talked to them. How does it relate to the damn crime is my question. Right? That's my question. Why is this changing all my light colors? So I'm going to give a little bit of a teaser for what I have coming up. I'm most likely not going to be streaming tomorrow. Maybe I'll pre-record something, but I'm not sure. Is there any reason for us to stop looking at the 4 people that were killed as one of the targets? I'm going to say that again. Is there some reason, right? So we've read all these 4chan posts, we've read the articles that they don't line up with the official narrative at all. And I think a lesser discussed reason for a cover-up is, what if the target of the killing wasn't killed? What if one of the surviving roommates was the target and the other 4 were collateral? And what if that's the reason for all the redacting, the secrecy? That's the reason for one of them fleeing the state, not coming back. What if that's why they weren't treated as suspects or witnesses? What if that's why there was a delay? What if Bethany was the target? What if Dylan was the target? You guys have to understand, if anybody says no way, my point is this. That's the equivalent of saying Kaylee was the target. We've heard it. That's the equivalent of hearing over and over again they were asleep and stabbed in their sleep. And people saying that wouldn't make any sense. Why wouldn't that make any sense? Why would Bethany fight a subpoena? It doesn't make any sense that she fights a subpoena if she's not under threat, whether for her own protection or whether that she knows something. Why wouldn't Bethany show her face anywhere? Why is Bethany scared to go back to Idaho? And people are saying again, it's just they know who did it. Okay. Again, it's just a question. I'm not here to disagree with you guys. Calm down. Christ. It's Christmas. Take it easy. Take it easy on old Bird. Just saying, have we ever looked at that? Yeah, why was BF's room trashed? Why is BF's room blacked out on the body cam? Maybe the parents were the target of the message, Bourbon Santa. I'm just here to try to get people to think more about it. I've had a theory for a long, long time that there's no way in hell that those kids all just randomly end up living together, given their family history, given the connection to suspicious deaths in that town, and then end up murdered. To me, I've always wondered if Bethany, the person who is kept out of the public eye, the person who has not spoken, who has not came back to Idaho, did not go to any of the hearings, did not do the victim impact statements, fought a subpoena. I've always wondered if Bethany and something that her family did got her placed into that house. I don't know, but very few of these victims have any trace back deep into their childhood with how much they post. And so if Bethany is terrified of something, what would that tell you? Outside of the simple thought that the real killers are out there. I understand that. We have discussed that at length. So work with me here, Hive. If she's terrified for something besides the real killers are out there, what if it's not because the real killers are out there, but people associated with the killers are, and they tried to send a warning and intimidate and flush her out of if she was under some sort of protection protocol? BF has done legally the weirder things than anybody else. She had no GoFundMe. And when I say that, so have you guys seen, I forget the creator's video, but they were like, was Bethany in the car with Jenna McClure that next morning? Were they about to leave? Then they came back and then Bethany walked up, right? They didn't have to go upstairs. To me, they didn't have to go upstairs doesn't just mean to the third floor. It could mean they could have just gone onto the entry level. Oh, yeah, karmic retribution. Thank you, Sluther Dare. That's who put that out. Well, Bourbon Santa, and I'm glad you're in here because I know that you and I can get on the same wavelength for this type of stuff. So, Bourbon Santa said there may have only been a credible threat. I wonder if this is the connection with Brian Koberger. Hear me out. I hope that I can explain this. This is why I said this is a teaser. I typically will do this. I kind of talk and I think out loud through what I have not finalized yet, but buckle up for a stream in the next couple of days. And this might be my first stream of 2026 that I do this on. By the way, I'm going to finish 2025 with the top 25 Hive Mind finds. So that'll be really fun. So if you do have any that you didn't get shown on stream or you think that they should have been, send it to birdieshivemind@gmail.com or put it into our Discord. But I'm going to do the top 25 Hive Mind finds of 2025. That'll be really good because there's a lot of smart people in here that have sent a lot of crazy shit. And I think it'll be good to recap going into 2026. But this theory that I'm going to talk about, the two survivors, will be one of my first streams in 2026. And my thought is, okay, Brian Koberger is a criminology student at WSU. We know that they work with the PD. We know Chief Jenkins had reached out to Fry asking if they want assistance. They said, no, not yet. Chief Jenkins then goes and works for WSU. Everybody that's really been involved in the Idaho 4 case has separated. When do we typically see that? Well, you see that when it's like a high profile or some sort of operation case. You then immediately get separated after that job is done. You go somewhere else. Now, my question is, what if the rumors of Brian Koberger and the cloud-based, predictive criminal behavior stuff, what if Koberger was tasked in his criminology department with watching certain students and he thought that he was just tasked with it and he uncovered, holy shit, Bethany is in witness protection already. Or he uncovered a hit for somebody. And it's just a thought. It's just a thought. Because how does Brian Koberger get involved? Well, if he's just tasked with watching them, yeah, like if he's a handler of some sort, if he's watching over digital behavior, if Bethany won't go back to Idaho, if Bethany leaves right away, if somebody was already in witness protection and the marshals were on scene right away, that tells me that something or someone in that house was already known to those other agencies. And I don't know if it's because of the area Knights or the cartel or whatever. I don't know, but I'm just saying, let's look at just the house, the people inside of it, and what occurred after. That will then point us in a direction of maybe who was threatening them. And now you go on a deeper level, and the forbidden theory, if this was uncovered before Kaylee moved out, and this was the weekend that they chose to do an extraction, that would make sense why Kaylee would come back that weekend so that it could have a cover story, make it look real, and then ultimately protect these people. And again, it's not meant to be offensive. If these kids are all being protected and are federally protected in witness protection because somebody had a family past or connections to somebody that was going to try to hurt them, then maybe you have to stop and slow down and think to yourself, holy shit, that's the best case scenario. It's not evil. It's not evil. And I know that, if anything, I would say this. It seems like people want them to have been brutally murdered and stabbed, and they want these colleagues of them at the frat house or they want the area knights to have gotten to them. But that doesn't add up. It doesn't add up when it comes to how quickly these agencies were there. Well, see, like, and I'm not roasting you, White Rabbit. White Rabbit YouTube says, why would she be in witness protection in the first place? I say that and I go, respectfully, how the hell would I know? How would anybody know why somebody's in witness protection? That's the whole point of witness protection. And that's what a lot of people can't wrap their head around is we will never know that. But it could be at least discussed in a manner that makes it a feasible option, a reasonable theory, a reasonable hypothesis. Right? No. Yeah, and that's why I said I'm not roasting you. I don't know either. And that's what I do. I think out loud. They put all their shit into a moving van. They move out the survivor stuff too. They tear the house down. Nobody's concerned about contaminating the crime scene. We've seen how many documents. They say suspect 1, suspect 2, vehicle 1, vehicle, whatever it is. Koberger takes a plea deal because it was never meant to go to trial. Not because they were just necessarily going to railroad him, but because they needed a public close. Think about this. Let's say that I'm in witness protection. And you guys are watching digital behavior. And you pick up on a threat that says, oh my God, they know that Birdie is living in 1122 King Road. You guys are going to alert the right authorities. They're going to bring back any roommate that could have lived with me in the recent months. And they are going to get us the hell out of there. How would they do that? Well, depending on who was after me, why they'd be after me, if it was a giant organization, well, then you're going to want to make it look like, oh my God, these kids might have been just randomly murdered. What are the odds of that? And like, you have all of the world looking at this case, looking at that area, distracted by it. It gives you a cover to get out of there. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's how I could see this possibly going down. I could see that could also be a reason why Kaylee is back there. I could see that being the reason why some parents are speaking out. I can see that being a reason why other parents are now speaking on behalf of IGG. For all we know, that door that was opened where they said Xana's dad came and fixed it and they walked around with golf clubs and all this shit, for all we know, somebody could have been intimidating them this entire time. The rental Range Rover. Wouldn't that make sense that if Kaylee drove her actual car there with a license plate, somebody could look up that license plate and say, holy shit, they're all here? Or wouldn't it be better to have a loaner car where the identity of that person will never be known that they're back? There's little things that are mixed into that. There's why is the Black Explorer there? Right? Why are those 4 cars, Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee, parked right in the front? They just happen to get killed. It's hard to talk through these theories if people can't at least help think through it with me. Yes, the Range Rover was a loaner. It was a rental. Yes. 100% confirmed. I've also wondered with Brian Koberger's Elantra, and it looks so new and professionally detailed. Did they? I don't know what they would have did, but the bug guard and just the oddities on the film. Koberger has nothing in his apartment. He's writing about the exact same situation that plays out with him. Yeah, and guys, if you're arguing in the chat, I don't see anybody doing that, but I'm like, understand, this is what we do. We think out loud. It's okay to argue. Just have a point in it instead of just saying somebody's wrong. You can disagree. I don't care. I've gone through a billion theories, I feel like, but we've never looked at the survivors being the targets that ended up either not being there. Could you imagine if the survivors were the targets and they weren't there? And maybe there was a 5th person and they took the 5th person with them. Maybe it was Ashlyn Couch. Go watch her mom's interview on Dateline. Why isn't Ashlyn talking? She apparently didn't live there, but she moved away and said, I don't know when she's going to come back if she chooses to. That's so weird. That's so weird. Right? And like CJ Russo says, how do we know they didn't have a bunch of cash or drugs there? How do we know they did? We don't. Why is the time off at the grub truck? It's weird nobody's talking about it. So Kawanda says, I can't reconcile the 4 not being the targets given the brutality and the passion of the injuries. It's the forbidden theory. But again, it would be the best outcome. If it didn't happen, they can put whatever the hell they want on paper. I'm not even claiming that I believe that. I'm just saying, is witness protection real? Yes. Are the marshals involved in it? Yes. Is that national security? Yes. Is everything redacted? Yes. Have we seen crime scene photos? No. Does it look like 4 people were brutally stabbed in that house? We don't know. Yeah, why else would they be left alive? It's a good question. They're just downstairs? Right, that's what I mean. from what they've shown, from what we have seen as the public, we are taking the word of people that have shown they have not said the whole truth from the beginning. Well, and possibly they're alive because they're not the target. Just maybe. That's, again, I think we've gone through that. I'm just, like, I get that. I think everybody can understand that we've thought through that too. But yes, on a simple level, of course. I'm just kind of going to take a second look at some of these comments. The way that DM talks in her interviews. Guys, if Dylan or Bethany had anything to do with this, they would be in prison. They would be in prison, or if they had anything to do with this, they would have been given immunity because they most likely did not have anything to do with the actual crime. There are people that have just been the driver in a drive-by shooting that go to prison for life. They didn't pull the trigger, but they were there. They were in on it. They were at the scene. They knew something was going to go down. Why would those two be getting so heavily protected unless there was something massive the cops could use? And if somebody can give me a reason as to why that's not a logical route of thinking, and you could say powerful people, this and that, okay, but an entire alphabet of agencies involved for a stabbing cover up? And if they are being protected, like I said, they have to have so much value to something else. That's the way that it would have to be. Personally, I don't see how it could go any other way. Protected cover up or not, okay, then what value do they bring? Keeping their mouth shut? Okay. Well, what did they keep their mouth shut on? The real perpetrators? With the ISP, with MPD, with the FBI, with the ATF, with who else was all there? Homeland Security? Come on. How much value do they bring? Where you have separate investigations going on? Or what if somebody who was in WITSEC was already killed? The marshals don't mess around. I look, you guys know that I can think through things without wrapping my head around it. I think that that's something that I really can appreciate about the way that my brain works, for better or worse. Sometimes, right? It's a blessing and a curse. But when I try to, if I had to give something where I'm like, okay, this is going to be logical, a donor to the University of Idaho, I don't see the FBI giving a damn if they donated millions of dollars. I don't see other parents giving a damn. I see that being totally pushed as a massive scandal that the university tried to cover up rich parents of somebody involved in a quadruple homicide at the University of Idaho because they gave millions of dollars to the school. If I was the other family members and I was a father and I heard that, I would shout that shit from the rooftops, and that would be no reason for the judge to tell me to keep my mouth shut. The government wouldn't give a damn about it. It certainly wouldn't be national security. I'm not trying to make anybody angry. I'm just saying we'll speculate and we'll get nuts. You guys know I love to do that, but we also have to, not. This would be such a big cover up. Somebody would have talked. Something would have went down. Brian Koberger's playing a role, which I believe he is. Steve's told to leave Dylan alone. That's exactly right. There is something bigger that is hanging on by a thread because of this crime. That goes far beyond the state of Idaho, in my opinion. And one of the biggest tells is look at, like, for example, Karen Reed. I know there's a bunch of shit going on with that. Okay, there was a bunch of shit too, even prior to this whole Turtle Boy thing. That was a local level cover up. And look at the outrage. Look at the lawyers that stepped up. Look at how much they looked into the cops. Look at the trials. Look at the actual evidence being shown in court. All of these people under surveillance, those videos being shown. That is what a local cover-up would look like when it unravels. We watched that just happen. If I was to look on paper, just on paper, Karen Reed looked a hell of a lot more guilty than Brian Koberger on paper. I hope you guys can wrap your head around what I'm saying. Karen Reed is admitting they were at the scene, dropped that person off, sped away, allegedly said, I hit him. But then they investigated it and they said, no, she's going to be framed for this, right? There's a lot of stuff that if you pull the emotion out of it, and let's just look at it on paper, because for God's sakes, that's all we can do with the Idaho 4. We have to look at it on paper. On paper, Brian Koberger even looks less guilty than her. And that's a stabbing. Brian Koberger's got to be the first person in history to stab 4 people with a knife and not cut himself. And do it in that time frame. And have visual snow. And be autistic. And walk around like awkward Frankenstein's nephew. Or Frankenstein's awkward nephew. And leave a sheath. And have no other DNA found anywhere else. And have the feds not test publicly the additional male DNA. And not show crime scene photos. And black out the bottom room when apparently nothing happened down there. And not have it go to trial. And have the plea deal make no sense. And have national security. And have the alphabet of agencies involved. To think this was just a cover-up, to me, like, you can apply the broad blanket of a cover-up, I think. But to say that it's covering up the murder itself, If anything, this crime feels like it's not even about, like, the cover-up doesn't even feel like it's about the murders. The murders feel like a side effect of whatever they're covering up. We haven't even seen the murder weapon, guys. We haven't even seen the murder weapon. Do you guys understand? Think of other high profile cases. The exhaustive search for murder weapons that we see all over the news. Did we even see a helicopter or a scene where they are searching relentlessly for a weapon? No. But not only do they not have it potentially, I don't even think that they looked. They said, oh, they threw it into a rushing body of water. It floated away. All right. I'd love to throw a K-bar into a rushing rapid river and see how long it takes to float to the bottom. How long will that thing stay on the surface of the water if this knife is so big and it's nothing to mess around with and it's so heavy and it's so durable? How long is that thing going to float before it hits the bottom? What's the weight of a K-bar? A K-bar knife weighs roughly, so if you add the sheath, the K-bar weighs almost 1.3 to 1.4 pounds. It's around 21 to 22 ounces. Without the sheath, it's 11.9 ounces. How long would that float in the water? It wouldn't float at all. There's no trapped air, no hollow handle, no buoyant materials. The leather sheath doesn't help either. Once it saturates, it would sink instantaneously. In moving water, it sinks, then travels horizontally. Okay. It wouldn't float. Yeah, even they could calculate it too. They do that with bodies all the time. You guys will see too. Like, what was that? Was it Chris Watts and how they were looking for his wife's body? They were like, based on the currents on that date, we could see where the body would be, right? I don't think that the biggest red flag that we should have seen right away is the second that they said that they were killed in their sleep, and it shows that they most likely weren't. All of them have defense wounds. And if it was one person, again, as Devil's Advocate said, give me a break, kiss my ass if you think that because Brian Koberger knew how to fillet a fish, that he would know how to silently stab people for the first time ever, killing somebody with a K-bar knife in the lungs so that they couldn't yell or make a noise. And then walk out of the house, look a surviving roommate in the eye, and then just vanish for a month. Are you high? Oh, did I say Chris Watts? My bad. Scott Peterson. Thank you, guys. But even Chris Watts with the oil drum too. You know, that whole case, there seems to be way more investigative stuff. Thank you for the correction, my B. Yeah, defense wounds, simple enough. They indicate it's a fight. They even told us Santa fought like hell. That's so thank you, Pop and Switch. That's something that I actually want to make a goal for the Hive is I don't know if I need to do it on a weekly basis where like and please share your thoughts if you've tuned in and you've seen how we kind of will bounce over stream to stream. Do you guys think that it would be more effective and would it be better to do a theory each week? So to Pop and Switch's point where it says, I wonder if there's a way we can decide the outlines of scenarios and work them staying on task of those points to the best end one at a time. I do think that there is a point where we have to give focus and we have to work through the theory from the beginning and not just try to cram it into an hour and a half. And it could be, this week we're going to talk this theory. The first time is an open thought discussion. Maybe on Wednesday we have the call-ins about that topic, right? But then we look through the stuff that's discussed. So if we were going to be saying, okay, what if one of the survivors was the target? Well, then let's just focus on that. Let's look into just Bethany's interviews and only focus on Bethany and not let the stuff in the chat about random shit about the house or random rumors. Like, let's just focus on that person if we were going to do that. Yeah, we could vote on which theory we want for the next week. That's what I want the Hive to get to. I want it to be like that so that we can have more organized thoughts. Yes. And I think too, then that allows to have a more of a structured schedule of the week. Like Monday is going to be, where I give the synopsis of what we voted on over the weekend. And maybe even Saturdays like today, we can start to debate, what are we going to do on Monday? What's our Monday theory going to start for the week? And then, Tuesday we can give the premise of it. Wednesday, we can do call-ins, or maybe on Monday, we go over the general gist of it. Tuesday, I can try to have some sort of retired expert that gives weight to it. Wednesday, we do call-in. Thursday and Friday, we put a bow on that theory. And yeah, Sky Blue Eyes. If that's the stats right now, Hive, that is sad. Hit the damn like button, everybody. It's Christmas. That's all I want for Christmas. Just tap that like button, hit subscribe. They want us to focus on the kids and not anything around them. I agree. So I've been working on the funding one. I've been working on the survivor one. Yeah, weekly theory with a weekly call-in show on that. And that would be cool because I think then it would force, there's enough people covering this case too where, you could speculate off that, but I think it would be cool to stay focused on like a certain theory. I've been trying to get a body language expert in here. And I think that not that I don't love collabing with other creators, but I do think there's more value at times with people who are in that field. And Hive, I hope I have to get run into a family Christmas, but again, I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas. I don't know if I'm going to stream tomorrow or if I do a quick cut or not a quick cut. The quick cut will be posted, but if I do a premiere, but either way, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe on your way out. I hope everybody has a fantastic time with family and friends. Don't forget about up until midnight. If you buy $50 or more on HiveMindStore.com, you get a free t-shirt. And with that, Merry Christmas and cheers. Thanks, Hive.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drift drifting on by. You know how I feel. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life.